Well, that's a rip-roaring guitar riff there, Moen.
You did that all by yourself, didn't you?
I want to welcome everybody for being here with us tonight on the Big 12 Mafia Show. I'm your host, Nathan Balmer Brown. With me are my co-hosts, Immaculate View and Moen After Dark, who's recently changed his name to the IP that I think carries the most power. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Exciting day. Kind of what we've been waiting for actually happened. How often does that happen? So interesting and looking forward to getting into it.
Absolutely. Looks like Moen's got some audio issues, so we'll wait on him. In the meantime, we want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight on the Big 12 Mafia Show. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. And then last but not least, make sure you turn on your notifications so that you know when our show is on. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and give us comments and suggestions. We take those and use them for show ideas, and we want to stay in touch with what you guys are doing on a day-to-day. So we thank everybody for being here tonight. 30 people live on a Wednesday night. That right now we are up against 4 other shows that I know of, 2 that I know of that are pretty popular. And so who knows what our numbers get to tonight, but I do know that we have news breaking that I don't think anybody else is going to be covering, certainly not to the extent that we do. And so we invite you guys to let other people know about our show so that they don't miss out at the same time. Since we're getting in here in the middle, I'm going to start off with giving us some hellos to people who are here early. First of all, Glenn Lumen's here from the Philippines. Good to have you here, Glenn. Jan Hulk says, hey, hey. Don in Kansas says, here we go. Daniel Gygax says, hi, everyone. Billy Tuesday saying, howdy, folks. Buckeye Land, are you guys looking to rape and pillage from the Michigan football team this month? I think that'll be interesting, and I bet you guys are looking forward to that. I know Moen is. Jim F. is here. He says, howdy. Edward Wayner says, leave it to Captain Khaki Pants to light up college football and the NFL. That, of course, is Jim Harbaugh. We'll talk about him in just a minute. Not that it's a big surprise to anybody on this show, but yeah, we have some news if you don't know about it. Jan Hoke says Moen the White because he was wearing the white outfit. That was cute. Let's see here. Edgar Winter. It's Edgar Winter on the show. Everybody likes talking about Moen. Nobody talks about me. Laura Weiss is here. Good to have you here, Laura. Minnesota Seminoles. You got to be enjoying some of the movement that's going on Seminole land, and we've been talking about that for a while. So we're glad to have you on the show, and make sure you return because we're going to be talking more FSU and ACC stuff probably on Friday. We didn't have a lot of movement on that today. Let's see. Numbschool News. Good to hear you. I saw you on Greg's show earlier today. You had a great call and always bring good content to the world that we're currently sitting in. So while we're waiting for Moen to reattach and join us, Immaculate, I'm going to give you a second to kind of set up what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Well, as far as I'm aware, I do believe we're going to touch upon a couple things before we get into the big news. And even the small news today is actually pretty big news that we could do entire shows on in the future. But North Carolina Governor's Board has decided, not a surprise at all. I think we're going to be getting into that. And also going into just the, the situation, one, like the going into the whole talk of House versus NCAA. But then you had one more topic you want to go into?
Yeah,
so you want to go into FSU?
So I have North Carolina, I have FSU,
Yep.
I have Jim Harbaugh.
Nice. Okay.
And then I have we're going to be talking about House versus NCAA. There was one other note that I wanted to bring up that we could jump into. I was waiting for Moen to join before I got to any news postings, but we can start and sort of carry on from there. There's no reason to make people wait. Lonnie Johansson's giving us a super chat. Thank you very much, Lonnie. Hi from Kansas. Good to have you here, Lonnie. I don't have any sounders for you. Well, that's not true. I do have a clapping sounder. I think I've moved it up. There we go. Thank you very much for your super chat there, Lonnie. We really, really appreciate it. Let's see, and I haven't missed anybody else. Joey Z is in the house saying good evening, all. So Sergeant Pickles, one of our members, is also joined. In the words of Immaculate, let the portal games begin. All right, let's just
And
start
there
there.
it is. Yeah.
Let's just start with Jim Harbaugh. The news is that, no shocker, he's going to be moving on to the Chargers. He's leaving Michigan, which then opens up the portal for 30 days for Michigan to get picked apart. And you guys are my Big Ten guys. What are your first thoughts about this?
You want to start it off, Moen?
I'm glad he's gone. I never want to see his stupid face again.
I figured
Okay.
that's about what he was going to say, but that might have been a little bit harsher, but I think he was holding back a little bit. Personally, I think we're probably going to get a Sharon Moore announcement tomorrow. They're not going to want to give too much time. These guys would hit the portal otherwise, and they're going to want to know that everything that someone gifted me a membership. That was very nice of you.
You weren't supposed to click that, Immaculate.
No, I didn't. I thought I already had one.
He's auto opt-in.
Oh, you need to turn that crap off. You don't need one. Oh,
anyways,
boy. Anyway.
So, point being is, I think that they're going to try to get him in there quick. They sold all year long that it was them against the world.
Right.
If you bring in another coach right now, that kind of says that was all bullshit. Unless both coordinators were to also be taken along with Harbaugh, then that's different.
Right.
Because you want someone at least has some coordinator position in terms of running the whole side of the ball. So I think that we're going to see that move very quickly. Any time hesitating would just mean you might be losing some guys.
And the name we're hearing is Sherrod Moore, right?
Sharon Moore. Yeah.
Sharon Moore. Sorry.
However it's said, he's the offensive coordinator. He actually coached the team for four games.
I thought
3 to 4 games.
Yeah.
It was the first 3, and then I think also because of the one that was part of the NCAAs on the last 3.
Oh, okay.
I think so. But anyways,
Okay.
Yeah. So he's already kind of done it and ran it, and the team responds to him. So you're basically saying, yeah, we don't think you're that good if you don't go with him after he's already done it. So I think he will be the guy.
All right. Very good. Don in Kansas is our latest YouTube member. Let's hit that up there.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for being here, Don. You've been a valuable member of the Big 12 Mafia family. We appreciate you signing up for a membership. Lonnie Johansson at the same time gifted one Mafia membership, and that just happened to go to Immaculate. So
sorry about that, guys.
You need to turn off your auto opt-ins because doesn't it?
I don't know if I can.
Person who's logged in. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah. All right. But thank you very much, Lonnie Johansson, for giving us that membership as a gift. Moen, why don't you kind of tell everybody how the gifts work?
Yeah, the gifts work real simple. If you go down to the cash icon in the bottom right corner underneath the chat screen, you will see the option to gift memberships. If you have not yet opted in automatically, make sure you click that little gift box that pops up, the little notice in the chat, and that'll allow you to claim the gift. And please make sure to thank the person who gave you a gifted membership.
Yes, thank you, Lonnie. I very much appreciate it.
You didn't need it. All right. Thank you so much, Lonnie. We really appreciate it. You again are another valuable member. Everybody who's currently in the chat at one time has been a member at some point. We want to encourage everybody that may have dropped off to re-up those memberships. You get access to all of our locked up audio or videos. This latest one that's going to be coming up is a Clemson video. So if you're interested in the ACC and realignment, there's going to be a Clemson video put out, and you would get access to that for 2 weeks before anybody else has access to it. The first one we did was for Florida State. After Clemson, we will be doing a Miami one. If you're a member of the Big 12 Mafia show, you will get access to those locked up special shows. Anyway, let's move on to some really, and I've got them on a list, so I'm just going to run through them one at a time, and hopefully that we can cover them one at a time, and it'll be easy to
Hold up.
cover. Oh, wait a second. Summit Hawk.
All right, you ready? You ready for this one?
Yeah, let's go.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yes! Yes!
Oh my
Good.
gosh. Thank you
You
so
s-
much. So those
You still got to
members-
do the other one. You got to do the Jayhawk.
You want to do
Yeah.
Jayhawk too?
That's
Okay.
Summit. There you go.
We'll do the Jayhawk squad. Make
Summit
sure you
Hawk.
guys thank Summit Hawk if you received one.
Summit
Cat is
Hawk
saying hello and goodbye.
giving out memberships to Jan Hulk, Antoine Coes, Joey Z, BR, and Clay Johansson. Everybody thank Summit Hawk for those memberships. We really appreciate you doing that, Summit Hawk. You've been another powerful member of the Big 12 Mafia show, and we very much value you and what you've given to us as we've continued to grow the channel. All right, let me bring up, I've got 4 stories to do before we talk about House versus the NCAA. So I'll try to cruise through these fairly quickly, depending on if we have people that have questions or concerns. We really want to talk about these things. So the first one is, and let me get that off there so we're not having it blocked. Okay. This is the first story, and this is something that just came out within the last hour and a half. Bob Thompson replied to it. I'm going to read this. This is from Amanda Kristovich from the, what is it? It's the FOS. Who is that?
That's Front Office Sports.
Front Office Sports.
A
Go ahead.
highly suggested follow. If you guys like to follow kind of some of the stuff going on in Congress and the hearings and whatnot that have to do with these sports right now, she does the best play-by-play live tweeting on Twitter going on. So I do highly suggest following her. I do myself for those. So just a suggestion.
I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to go to some comments from our contributing partner, Bob Thompson. This says, regarding TV timeout, understanding sports media rights. It says the media marketplace has rapidly evolved over the last decade to adapt to the shifting dynamics of the sports media rights debate and the rising influence of online streaming platforms. That would be Apple, that would be Amazon, that would be whoever. The introduction of streaming services in particular has expanded the options for people to choose where, when, and what content they view, including live sports. We look forward to discussing this evolution and better understand the innovation and competition in this market and how it has changed the consumer experience. And that came from the House Energy and Commerce Committee Chair, Kathy McMorris Rogers, who happens to be from Washington State, and the Communications and Technology Subcommittee in the House, Bob Latta. And that's a really big deal because it means Congress has decided to dip its way in and maybe begin to regulate a little bit more and subdivide charges that is currently kind of free broadcasting to the online broadcasters, which they might be adding taxes to some of that stuff. Government always wants its money. Bob Thompson replied and said, based on my observations over the years, congressional members understand little about business. Many members understand very little about sports. Many members understand very little about the media business, and even fewer understand the sports media business. So basically what Bob is saying here is bringing Congress in because it hasn't been regulated on its own is not a good thing for the sports media. You guys want to have any comments about that?
That's just funny. Like, I mean, if any one of us said that, I mean, we'd have a good little chuckle about it, but that's coming from Bob Thompson, former president of Fox Sports. I mean, that's pretty much a backhand right there.
Agreed. Moen, do you have any?
Well, you know the definition of politics. Poly is Greek for many, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites. So I think that's pretty spot on, Bob.
We love Bob. I invited Bob on the show. He probably is not going to surprise me with a guest appearance, but he was very energetic online today for multiple reasons. So we appreciate Bob contributing to this conversation, and we'll continue to cover it as we move through the coming days. All right, next thing I'm going to mention is, and Greg Greg Flugar mentioned this on Peek Around the Corner earlier today. Board moves ahead with policy that could stop UNC, NC State from leaving the ACC. I'm going to post the link to the actual article right here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it in the chat so everybody has access to this. Basically, what this is for is it's the separation or the attempted separation of North Carolina and North Carolina State from each other, which would enable UNC specifically to go either to the Big Ten or the SEC. Moen, thoughts about this article?
Yeah, this is just basically North Carolina State is going to have to be taken care of by UNC. There's a possibility they let UNC leave, but UNC is going to have some kind of financial obligation to North Carolina State. But I think the ultimate push here is North Carolina State and UNC in the same conference. So nothing's changed for me. I don't think this changes anything. I've thought for the last 6 weeks it's a package deal. I don't think anything's changed in that regard.
Very good. Immaculate.
Well, the way that they're phrasing it, remember, this is kind of a local outlet there. They're phrasing that this could stop them from leaving the ACC, which it could. I think it's more aligned to making sure that one of them doesn't get damaged. I do think that they want to tie them together. Whether or not that happens in the end, we'll see. A lot of talk that the SEC just wants North Carolina and Virginia, and that's it. I think this is probably a response to that, to say, no, we're getting the final saying that you can't just do that. They can't just slip out of here. So this is kind of a move on the board. We'll see if it works out or if maybe it has no effect whatsoever. We'll see. But yeah, they're trying to make sure, I think, that these two schools go together.
Very good. All right, let's move to the next news item. We're just going to bust through these because it was a very busy news day. Let's see here. Matt Baker, friend of the show, who's on with us last week, and we're going to have him on in the future. I'm hoping that we might be able to do some partnerships with him. He says, and I will post the link to this. Let me post it. Sorry, before I like that. In fact, I want to post that. Let's see. College Football Mafia says Carolina Moni. Carolina Moni. Did you type that, Moen? Anyway.
That's a Moen original.
Okay, all right. Matt Baker says FSU's Board of Trustees unanimously approved the plan that would allow university auxiliary funds to be loaned to athletics. No specific amount, timeline, or purpose was discussed. They simply approved the plan that allows them to approve future plans. If you have been following Big 12 Mafia, and we've been covering this since July of last year, we knew about this, and we've been telling you guys about it, and we knew this was going to be coming up in greater detail. This should not shock anybody unless you're new to the channel, but basically Florida State's been planning this for almost 2 years, and this is just a next procedural step, nothing new. This is the next procedural step to actually be able to come up with some money to pay to leave the ACC if they need to pay anything at all. Immaculate, any comments about this one?
This one was very odd. I even responded to him and made a little tweet of my own saying that basically they're preparing to do something, but we don't know what that something is. All that we know is that they can do this mysterious something in the future. And that's pretty much have the money available to respond as needed. Maybe some conjecture would be that they're wondering if the ACC is going to cut them off from funds, if they're not going to distribute to them. So maybe they need to get funding through other means. But it's just one more kind of weapon in their arsenal.
Moen, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, this is basically them preparing for the preparation of the eventuality that they will need to prepare for preparing for an eventuality.
Exactly. Perfect.
I need to clear something up. This is a different Matt Baker than I was picturing that we talked with last week. So I apologize for that. Matt, don't take it personally. I just didn't catch the name difference on the heading. So
it's a popular name in sports media.
Evidently now it is. Yes. All right. Let's move on to, let's see. I already did that one. All right. I guess we're going to jump right to the Ross Dellinger. Let me quickly, before I'm going to lay the ground open so that Immaculate can sort of go off on this for a while. But quickly, this is an article from Ross Dellinger. I'm going to post a link to his tweet. You can find his article that is attached. I put that in the comment section. You guys can go and go there and read it with us. But basically, he says the settlement in House antitrust case, this is House versus NCAA, which is another lawsuit we've been talking about for months, could be the final straw to the great split. And I'm going to let Immaculate define what that is. Only the richest programs can both afford to contribute and operate in a system deemed fair enough to settle, says lawyer Jeffrey Kessler. Dramatic change is inevitable. What do you want to tell everybody about this, Moen or Immaculate, and where do you think this takes us?
Well, in terms of the great split, what they're kind of referring to or alluding to is some type of breakaway. Now, I know a lot of people, when they see that, they think, oh, they're going to leave the NCAA. I don't think that's necessarily it, but I think they're letting you think that. And what I think they actually mean by that is the FBS breaking away from the FCS, and it'll be the start of a new division inside the NCAA. So that's kind of what the great split is. It's the splitting of Division One, in my opinion. I don't know if Moen has any more that he thinks on that one. Otherwise, I can continue on into this.
Yeah, no, keep going, because I'll wrap at the end.
Yeah, and the dramatic change, in my opinion, is something I've been alluding to for really quite some time, and that's the only true pathway I see forward is for them to fully enable the autonomous conferences to govern themselves. Anything else is going to be pretty catastrophic in one way or another. If they leave the NCAA, the basketball tournament's done. The basketball tournament is done. The NCAA is done. And if the NCAA is done, you're inviting a whole lot of attention. That, remember, these are real people who are commissioners and presidents. I don't think they want that kind of heat. If they literally kill the NCAA, the amount of damage that does just across the board to universities is pretty much impossible to put a number to. So I do believe that this is 100% eventually leading to the full governance given to the A4. They will be in charge of this new division. I still would want to call it Division One, but they might get a new division name, and then the FCS would be Division One. But I do not think that the G5 is going to be kept out. Maybe some of them drop out. But when
Greg
we look
talked a little about that today, right?
But when you see the NCAA raising the cost from moving from the FCS to the FBS from $5,000 application fee to $5 million, that's tax. And it makes me think, okay, maybe they're doing that to try to block people from going up, but they might also be doing it because they're expecting a bunch of schools to try to make that jump before it's no longer possible. And so that would be a whole lot of $5 million added into their pockets. If, say, I don't know, if 10 schools do it, that's $50 million. That could help them pay their way on House versus NCAA. So I don't necessarily think that this is going to be as drastic as people think, but that's what they're saying to get people to act, and act soon, and act quick, and act fast. We saw the same thing in 2014. So I don't know if you guys remember that, but that's how the autonomous conferences got started. They wanted stipends passed for student athletes, like $2,000 stipends, and that got voted down in the NCAA at the January conference in 2014, I do believe. By the January conference in 2015, they had the NCAA ready to give them the autonomous conferences because they threatened to leave. So this is par for the course. This is how they do it. If they truly wanted to leave the NCAA, guys, they just do it. When you threaten to do it, you're trying to get something in order to not do it. So
let's get a few comments in here. By the way, we're 25 minutes in. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow all three of us on Twitter. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube so you know when our next show will be. And then consider becoming a member of the Big 12 Mafia family. I will run that video and you can find out how to join yourself.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
That's a great video Moen put together. Okay, let me get to some comments. Let's see here. First of all, Summit Hawk says, always good to give back, especially in a great to a great show like this. Thank you very much, Summit Hawk. We really appreciate it.
Very much.
Billy Tuesday says, did I ever tell you how handsome you are, Immaculate? By the way, what are you going to do with the memberships you don't need? You should pay it forward there, Immaculate. That's
hey,
what I'm thinking.
Look at the next chat. You'll see me. Look at what I said. No, I'm serious.
I didn't see because it's way at the top. What did you say?
No, in response to that, I said I'm going to probably pass it forward and give it to someone else.
There you go.
See, good guy.
Edward Wayner says, if the ACC starts breaking up and Big invites UNC and UVA AAU members, would NC State and Virginia Tech be worth taking for the SEC? What do you guys think?
Moen?
They'd be worth taking, but again, I don't see how UNC and North Carolina State get separated and UVA and Virginia Tech get separated. I think they're trying to package them as a 4-team deal.
I agree. The value's there just on their own, but that's clearly not the game at play right now in North Carolina. And we've already seen in the past, Virginia's not really playing that game either. It could be. I definitely don't think the SEC is playing that game. I think they would rather take North Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech than the Big Ten get North Carolina, Virginia, leaving them just North Carolina State, Virginia Tech. I think they'd block the whole thing and take all four. I know people think, oh, pay, all that hogwash. If it means keeping the Big Ten out of Virginia and North Carolina, I mean, if they take them, why not take Clemson and your Florida State and just own the entire Eastern Seaboard? That would be pretty catastrophic.
Good question. Really quick, I want to thank everybody who's joined. Make sure you become a subscriber and turn on your notifications. Let's get to some more comments. Just really quick before we take comments, just so we can clarify, the House versus NCAA is still in a long process, right, Immaculate? That it's not going to be settled next week, right?
Well, it is on the docket for January of next year.
Okay.
And that's going to have possible damages of over $4 billion. They're going to want to settle it this year. When? I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I would honestly think sooner rather than later, but how you figure out that settlement, that's pretty tough. They formed a class action, so that tells you kind of they want to get a large settlement to divide out. It just comes down to maybe if you can work out a deal with maybe some private equity to have all the money for it up front, versus if say they get a large settlement, they're going to work to have that paid out over a long amount of time. Whereas if maybe they're willing to come down to a smaller settlement, they'll agree to pay that all up front, and so they get private equity to cover it, and this whole thing can be done and behind them. So once again, I think we might get surprised with a smaller number on that than folks think. And I definitely think they're going to look to settle that this year.
Let's break into the second half of this whole argument that popped up today. And this is this idea that the breakaway could be happening, right? Quote unquote breakaway could be happening based on the result of the House versus NCAA decision. So how do we define breakaway?
Well, it's what we just talked about briefly a little bit before. They leave it purposefully kind of up to you to interpret it. So that way, if you want to kind of look at it and be a little afraid that maybe this means breaking away from the NCAA, you're free to think that. And so are people in important positions making important decisions. It's a little left to the unknown. Like I said, personally, I think what it means is FBS breaking away from FCS and it's going to be another division within the NCAA. And the A4, being part of that, will have full governance through the autonomous system. We'll see, though.
Matt or Mo, when you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, breaking away, there's so many options here. Immaculate's right. People are jumping, and that's just human nature to jump to the worst possible conclusion that,
Right.
that this is a super league and this is what they're threatening. They're not. You could also break away just by simply saying, hey, we're going to take football and do our own thing with football, and the NCAA can have basketball. We'll keep them around to run the basketball tournament, and we'll just run football separate from it. So, I mean, it's in human nature to jump to that far conclusion that this is the worst thing ever, and Ohio State, and Michigan, and Nebraska, and all these super teams are going to get together and form the NFL light. That's just not. That's not 100% the scenario that's going to happen.
I would recommend. I posted the link to this actual article on Yahoo Sports. I would recommend everybody read it. It's Ross Dellinger. As we get more facts out, we will report on those. But one thing we do want to just caution is there's a lot of danger language out there. Immaculate just detailed what that looks like. Conversations where Colorado State is never going to get a chance to fight for a football championship, right? For instance, you could do all these warning scenarios where your school is disenfranchised. We're nowhere near there, right? We got a long way to go before some of those things actually come into fruition, but they are talking about them. We don't want to turn our head against the wind and say they're not, but there's no action that we have that we can tell you guys that is going to be happening tomorrow. Let's see here. All right, let's get to some good questions. By the way, the chat has been fantastic, and I just want to make sure everybody knows if you want your chat to be noted, you can make it a super chat, and we guarantee to get those up. Otherwise, I'll do the best I can to get to first the members of the channel, and then I'll go to general comments. That's how we try to get to everybody's comments in, and those that are around that want to be involved. If you want your chat to be read, the easiest way to guarantee that is to make it a super chat. Summit Hawk says NC North Carolina could be in line with Ivy style league, but who else leaves with FSU to the Big Three now?
Oh boy!
I'd say
I'll
up
have to
front.
grab the bottle to drink.
Yes,
I
here we go.
I know what he's going to say.
Actually, right now, I'm just going to say no one has to.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
in reality, right now, it could just be FSU.
Right.
And if it's just them, you have to let that simmer a little bit. You got to let that pot boil, let everyone sit and stew in this thing and start to see, well, shoot, are we going to lose value? Because that on its own is not that big of a deal. They're going to come out and say, hey, we still got our 15.
Right.
We can still hold value, even though now we know that 2027 is looming. So, yeah, I think that it could just be FSU at first. I think Clemson, if they really had something out there, I think that they'd already have jumped in. So as it stands right now, I think what we're seeing is Florida State, probably to the Big Ten, and the SEC is looking hard at North Carolina. That's where I think we're at. And so that what's going on in North Carolina with the Board of Governors is in response to that, to the North Carolina and SEC thing. And it's slowly building in there. But I think this could get fast forwarded with what's going on right now with the NCAA if that breaks free. So we'll see.
Moen, you want to say anything additional?
Yeah, I think you stick with 19 worst case scenario, but I think you have to have a 20. I think the best case scenario is you have a 20th. You have a number 20. You have a travel partner for Florida State. Whether it's Clemson or a school in Atlanta or Miami or one of those schools, you have to poach another school. The best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you're right. You can just sit with Florida State at 19, and that's your only school in the South. It's the top brand available to them. So
Georgia State has a nice stadium and a view of Atlanta as well.
Yeah, that's not the school I was talking about.
I know.
Let's see here. Next comment. Tempest, who's one of our members, says South Dakota State, South Dakota, North Dakota, North Dakota State, Montana, Montana State, and FAMU to the FBS.
I'm going to throw Northern Iowa in there too. Sorry.
Okay. And all of those schools would have to pay $5 million tax to jump from their current conference to their current level to FBS, right?
Yep, that was just recently passed, and when it happened, it was just kind of, how the hell do you go from 5,000 to 5 million? And that's just the change in value that has happened ever since that first price of 5,000 was first created, when they created the split between the FCS and the FBS. So that it's telling of something. There's some people who think it's more of a wall, I'm seeing in chat, and then some people who agree that it's a tax. So we'll see. Very
good. You want to add anything to that, Moen?
It's a tax.
Yeah, I think it's a tax. Yeah. Let's see here. Sergeant Pickles says, immaculate. I think the greater college football world is about to be ready for your crazy realignment.
Getting closer. We're getting closer.
All right.
We need some movement.
These are really good comments. David Hackett, one of our members, says, I find it hard to believe that North Carolina and North Carolina State are forced to stay in the ACC with reduced revenue by North Carolina legislature. And I would just say, if I am sitting in the legislature at North Carolina, do I want to super enable one of my schools and devalue another one of my schools, but with the larger plan down the road of making the state itself more prominent by moving North Carolina up? That's exactly what happened between Cal and UCLA, and I could see the exact same thing happening here.
It's possible. I think that it wouldn't have to be as much. I think North Carolina, whether it goes to the SEC or Big Ten, North Carolina State's at least definitely getting into the Big 12. And if they get a solid 4, like with North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, we're just saying if Virginia Tech and North Carolina State go to the Big 12 because of this, with like a Clemson and a Pitt or a Louisville or whatever you want to do there, they're getting an increase in pay. I mean, when you add the 4 corner schools plus these 4, I don't know how it stays at 31.7. So I don't know if it would be 10 million a year, maybe 5 million. Could be another 10 million. I mean, when you're considering they might be getting 70 million, that's not that big of a deal. So it's possible. I just think that they want to try to get them both in the same conference so that they can have their rivalry game be at the end of the year.
Moen, you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree with that. But I think there's some confusion because that headline says, I think there's confusion with that headline. That is not necessarily what's going to happen. It's basically the governor saying that they want to have these schools both taken care of. Not necessarily by the ACC. The SEC could take them, and they'd be taken care of.
Right.
The Big Ten could take them, and they'd be taken care of. They just want to make sure both schools are taken care of wherever they land.
Terry Kane says this gives them veto power on schools leaving, meaning the North Carolina legislature, but also they want to stay in the ACC because the ACC is based in North Carolina.
I think to some degree, yeah, there's a lot of tradition there. There's history. Plus, there's a lot of Carolina control over that conference. So for them to move out of there, get split up, have whatever happened to the ACC, they might be some worry about that, some fear.
Yeah, they'd just be the king of the ashes at that point. I mean, right. At a certain point, you have to realize that if the ACC is imploding around you and you've lost all your value, well, you can say tradition. Well, tradition will get you $15 million a year media revenue per school when you've got a bunch of backfill with Tulane and Oregon State, Washington State, the Ivy League. I mean, there's not enough value in that conference if the ACC implodes.
I'm going to get this out. Ryan Willie's a member for 1 month. Way to go, Ryan. He says, we're finally rid of Harbaugh. Michigan is going to get hammered.
It's possible.
It's quite possible. Thank you very much for being a member, Ryan. We really appreciate it. Let's go to Sergeant Pickle says, as the guys know, I have proven a 19-team big schedule works, and I can attest. I have seen the schedule; it does work. It's not balanced because there's an odd number, but it's as close as you can get. So, John D says North Carolina might be stuck for a few years. How do you initiate the exit process right now?
I don't think you need to right now. I think you can sit back and wait and see what happens with Florida State, and get all your ducks in a row before you make any move. I mean, there's no rush for them to get out right now. They know they're desired by both the SEC and the Big Ten. They know they're going to have a good landing spot if you're North Carolina. So there's no need to panic. They can just sit back. Let's see how the ACC and FSU shakes out, and we'll move on from there.
You want to add anything to that, Immaculate?
I think that for a lot of these schools, that process would kind of take a couple of years. In terms of initiating it right now, you'd have to have at least both of those schools getting invites from the SEC, in my opinion. And it would probably take enough schools to come out, or at least internally, privately, saying they all want to exit, because there has to be a price. The Gore situation has to be figured out, these lawsuits. So I think right now even North Carolina hinges on the Florida State situation and getting some kind of settlement number agreed upon.
I appreciate that. Really quick, Summit Hawk, I'm going to take this out of order. He says ESPN is dropping the ACC deal in 27 if FSU leaves. Right now, between the three of us, let's do a quick straw vote. You could put up a poll if you wanted to as well, Moen. Do we think ESPN continues to fund the ACC? I don't think they'd completely drop it, but let's assume they fund the ACC at 50% current value. I personally don't. Unless it's about half value, I don't think they keep it. Certainly not at full price. What do you think, Immaculate?
I think there was already talk of them letting it go back in 21 when they made that extension. I think the ACC offered that to them and did it very quickly, knowing that it might go against their bylaws, but they didn't want to even bring it up to the presidents.
Right.
I think they kind of knew that ESPN was looking to actually not continue. So it's like, oh, just wait. Don't decide now. Just it's COVID and all this, blah, blah, blah. Just wait till 25. Let's see how things work out. Maybe the markets will come back. Maybe cable won't be taking such a hit. I don't think ESPN has any plan of going past 27. I think any future that's there is going to have to be something that can be sold to somebody else. And that's kind of part of, the theory that I got going on is that someone else is Apple. And they have already been in talks, which went quiet. So we may already have some type of a deal in principle for that. But yeah, in terms of being all ESPN, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Moen?
Well, let's just put it this way. The poll does not look good for the ACC. 92% say the ESPN would walk.
Yeah.
8%, which is one person, said no.
One person.
We're gonna have to work on that ACC viewing contingent, okay?
I love it. That'll be a question we bring up again. But that's a great comment there, Sonhawk. Thank you very much. Terry Kane, next comment says the new NCAA college football video game is going to be out just in time for everything to fall apart. Lol. What do you guys want to say about that?
He's probably not wrong.
I can't disagree with him.
We might not have one or two conferences, and they'll just have to delete that and move the teams. Some bigger things is in 24 right now. The things that's probably given gray hairs to the producers of the game is it going to be 5+7 or 6+6? What are you fucking doing, guys? Because we got to put that into the game. So yeah, who knows though? Things might break apart.
It's going to be the biggest day one patch in video game history.
Guys, we're gonna have to push this off to 25. Sorry. Oh, I didn't even want to put that out there now that I just said that, but seriously, it's gonna be a large day one patch.
I love it. Coos Corner has just joined us.
Nice.
If you want to join the show for a little bit, Coos, maybe 15, 20 minutes, let me know and I'll send you a DM with the join code if that's something you want to do. Our web's in the house, boy. We got a full house. All of a sudden, we're at 84.
I'm telling you that announcement was a very big deal.
Yeah. All right.
Everyone's realignment juices just picked up.
Let's get to some more comments here. Let's see. Daniel Gygax says, and Georgia State has about 50,000 students. I don't know what that's in relation
They're
to.
sleeping giant. We were talking about Georgia
Georgia
State
State.
instead of Georgia TECH.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, we're just talking about them. And it's one of the teams I actually have as I think they're highly likely to move up when G5 consolidation happens.
Okay. Antonio Baker says, why not just have the ACC and Big 12 merge after the top 6 brands in the ACC leave and the rest just merge with Big 12 for another big conference? I want to answer this one first. The reason that the Big 12 won't pick up those extra schools is because they bring down the overall value of what the Big 12 could get for a TV deal. So, and I don't think 6 teams are, I know we've talked about 6 teams, 4 to the SEC and 2 to the Big 10. I don't know that anybody's joining the SEC. Anyway, that would be the reason not to just throw them together and mash them. What do you guys want to say about it?
I think that if something like that was something the Big 12 is actually looking to do, I know there's some rumors out there. I think Oregon State and Washington State would have already been in the Big 12. They would have already merged it in, got rid of that whole problematic PAC situation and what that's done in the CFP voting room. So, and when you look at the ACC and what would be left, the value of quite a few of those schools over there, in my opinion, is quite a bit less to the Big 12 than Oregon State and Washington State are. So I don't put a lot of value in the whole large merger between those two conferences.
Moen, anything else to that?
Yeah, it makes no sense for the Big 12 to take on dead weight. It's bad that you have to kind of say it like it's a post-mortem, but they're going to pick the good and leave the bad.
Right. Absolutely. Really quick, here's a super chat from Cleveland Rocks. Thank you very much, Cleveland Rocks, who happens to be a member as well, so he's participating both ways. Yesterday's show was wonderful. However, you all seem to believe Utah will dominate the Big 12. That needs more evaluation. Not going to happen. Okay, let's be very clear. Nobody's saying Utah is going to dominate the Big 12. In fact, we prevaricated about it for a little bit to see who has the best chance to win. Next year's Utah team is loaded. Cam Rising's coming back. Keithy's coming back. Their defense returns top 2 in the Pac-12 for the last 3 years. So they are the odds-on favorite, but that does not mean that we think they're going to dominate the Big 12. In fact, I think Utah loses 2 games, even with those advantages. So let's slow that down a little bit. Nobody, except for Ute, who thinks they're going to go 13-0.
I picked Kansas, by the way. Kansas.
And I picked Oklahoma State. So
I picked Utah, but I don't think that they dominate. I'm kind of thinking hopefully Cam Rising can actually play this year. That would be fun to watch happen.
Hopefully he does not get hurt.
I think that Utah did pretty good without him.
Right.
So if they got him, I'm putting him as an early favorite. But it's not about domination, though. It's just kind of picking a favorite.
Yeah, we're not thinking anybody's going to dominate the Big 12, frankly. All right, let's move along. Thank you very much for the super chat, Cleveland Brock. All right, moving right along here. Edward Wayner says, FBS division, in my opinion, will not want to totally break with the NCAA. Maybe only football because NCAA runs all the lesser sports championships. FBS won't want to deal with that. Yeah, I agree with you, Edward. What do you guys think?
That's what I think is going to happen as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the FBS and FCS will be splitting up. I think like we were talking earlier, for folks who may not have been here hearing it, the change from 5,000 to 5 million for a cost of moving up from FCS to FBS is pretty telling. I think there's going to be a split, and once that happens, that's it. I don't think that it's going to be much more difficult to get up there. I think they're going to kind of wall them off. So I think there's going to be one final run of schools trying to get up into the FBS here at $5 million a pop, and then they will be split apart within the NCAA.
All right, let's move it right along. We're on. It's just going to be a comment night, I think, guys.
It's a lot of excitement.
Joey Z says, I mean, everyone wanted to stay in the Pac-10 too at one point, at Pac-12. But yeah, your point is true.
It was a very quick change once a certain thing happened.
Right.
And FSU could be that thing for the ACC.
And we believe it is going to.
Everybody wanted to stay on the Titanic to hit that iceberg.
That's right.
Now everybody wanted to get off.
We have a new member that want to clap in. That would
Nice.
be Replica.
Thanks, Replica.
Oh, yeah.
I believe Replica has been a member in the past, so we're glad to have you back, Replica. Thank you very much. We always value the new members that are out there. We're at 88, 90 people watching us live. I want to encourage everybody to follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications on YouTube and on Twitter. And Moen's playing with different views.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Go ahead and reset.
Quite all right. That's all right.
This is
Zoom.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know where I was. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, I guess is all I was going to say. And we appreciate Replica doing a new member. If you guys want to give memberships, just click that present at the bottom. You can give memberships to people and just become part of the community. We've got a growing group, and it's only getting better. Let's get on to some more comments here. Dan McInerney, one of our members, says, any thought that ESPN will push the SEC to take Virginia and UNC and drop the ACC as a bad investment?
I mean,
I agree. Yes, I think so.
They're going to have to be careful kind of about how they do that. But at the same time, if they're dropping the ACC in the future, why wouldn't they want some of their more valuable entities to move over into the SEC and Big 12?
Moen?
Yeah, I think SEC would want that, but I think the state's board of governors and the state of Virginia is not going to allow that to happen.
Do you think ESPN will push it, though, is what he's saying? Like,
Yeah, I think ESPN would push SEC to
No.
do that, but I mean, they can push all they want. If the board of governors says North Carolina can't go without little brother, you got to make a decision.
so if ESPN was to come in and say, we'll pay for North Carolina and North Carolina State, Virginia and Virginia Tech, we just want to get this done, does ESPN say yes?
Yes, I think they would. At this point, with Florida State situation going on, I think they have to.
Could we do that as a poll? I'm kind of curious to see what chat thinks about.
What's the poll? First, tell me what it is.
If ESPN was to tell the SEC that they would pay full for Virginia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and North Carolina State,
Right.
would the SEC accept taking all four schools? Like kind of a yes or no poll.
In other words, if ESPN will fund them.
Yeah. If they'll pay, we'll say full price now. Do I necessarily think that's going to happen? No, but
Right.
I mean, if they were willing to fund it for whatever reason, just probably because of this government move, maybe, or whatever,
Right.
would the SEC take it? Because I'm really curious to see it. I'm seeing some divide.
Well, and we need to remember that it's already happening where the ACC's been devalued by its owner. ESPN had every opportunity to promote the ACC by putting Florida State in the college football playoff. That did not happen. And so they don't care about the ACC at this point. That's why that 27 date is such a big deal. So I absolutely could see the ESPN walking away from the ACC. Certainly not at the current funding levels. Maybe at half price, they would keep them around. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the 2/3 price or 3/4 is where it ended up being. Like you're going to take a little hit for making us take all four. But then, as some folks say, the new deal specifically states that there's no maybe they'd write in a writer or they'd amend it or something.
They can always amend them.
Yeah, they can always
if they're
change that.
approved. Moen, this is for you. The Big Ten controls then AAU. They would have given FSU accreditation already.
The Big Ten does not control the AAU. If they did, they would allow Nebraska to be back in the AAU. Nebraska was taken out of the AAU because their medical school is located in Omaha and it's not on campus. And because of that, the federal research funding they get for the medical school is not allowed. So if they controlled the AAU, they would simply change that rule.
And if,
Yep.
yeah. And if I may, part of the talk at the time when that happened was it was actually Michigan and Wisconsin that were kind of pushing for them to also be removed, but they held up the vote until Nebraska was joined. So, yeah, I don't think that FSU needs to have AAU, but I think that they could get the votes for it after FSU joins.
And that's the thing too. You have to remember from that Board of Trustees meeting and the president's speech, they're making improvements. They are moving towards becoming an AAU school. Just because they're not there today doesn't mean they won't be there next year, the year after that, or the year after that. So, I mean, as long as people are making a push for AAU status, keep in mind, Oregon got into the Big Ten. They're AAU, but their research funding is abysmal. They do a third of the research Nebraska does, and Nebraska is not in the AAU. So, AAU status, the amount of research dollars you put out, they're not the end all be all.
Yeah, and you compare Florida State's real numbers to Oregon's real numbers. That Oregon was, the fox pick. And that's kind of here what we call Florida State would be the fox pick. And in terms of that, making Fox go along with whatever deal they do, I actually think Florida State's better academically and research wise than Oregon is. So,
well, that's a fact.
We did that. We did it in the video. You guys did that, and
we did a video in the summer, and it was hands down.
Yeah. So if the one thing that's holding it up is AAU, well, they'd be the second school that's not, and it's getting you all of Florida. So it's just not that big of a deal, I don't think.
Numbschool News for $1.99 gives us a super chat saying Louisville is the prize for the Big 12. I'm hearing that echoed from a lot of people. I would argue that Miami/Clemson would be the bigger prize, but I would put Louisville and Pitt, the very next ones, on the rung. What do you guys think?
I think Louisville is a ringer for that.
Slam dunk.
Yeah.
Agreed. Let's get to a comment here from Koo's Corner. By the way, Koo's, I did send you an invite. If you wanted to join, you don't have to, but I did DM it to you on Twitter.
Yeah. He said he's got something going on.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine. He says, what about a joint media deal, but not a full-blown merger? So there's been conversations, certainly a lot coming out of West Virginia land where people seem to know things, that there is this potential idea of a media deal that would be leverage both the ACC, remainder ACC, and the Big 12 to get more value out of their TV dollars. Do you guys think it's possible that those two things could happen at the same time?
Possible, yes. Is it what I would place my bet on happening? No. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. And yes, I could be wrong. I just don't think it's like full-blown merger, like he's saying. Some type of media deal, sure. But that's probably going in line with the rumor then that there's some company that they all sign with, and then that company takes all of their rights combined and sells. I'm not quite on board with that yet. We'll see. Possibly.
Moen?
Yeah, it's possible, but I don't think the probability for it is extremely low.
It'd be a lot of complicating factors.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is in a position of strength.
Yeah, that's my argument is why would you?
And I understand why West Virginia folks are like, we want these East Coast schools. Patience, you got them coming.
Them to have, by the way.
Yeah,
the rest of the Big 12
you got them coming.
To have those schools.
It's just you don't really need all of them.
I don't know one person in the Big 12 that's cheering against bringing on people for West Virginia. I haven't heard one person say, no, we want to just leave West Virginia by itself.
And West Virginia folks just need to see it. Like, it's been a long time coming. It's just, when it happens, they'll be happy.
Antonio Baker says Miami is buy one get one free tickets selling school right now. I watched the ACC.
It looks like a spring game every game.
Yeah, pretty much that's true. Tony Lawson says Big Ten president has over and over AAU is desired but not required.
Tony is right.
You want to add anything to that, Moen?
Besmirch the
Or
Badgers.
immaculate, you could do. Sorry.
Oh no, we're good. Yeah, no, Tony's right. That's kind of a accepted thing now. Is that the AAU is it's a point, and it gets you like a higher grade in your rankings, but it's not fully required. It's just one of many grades that you have.
Expedition Greg says, "Hey everyone." I want to make
Greg.
sure I shout that out for him. Let's see here. I got another comment. Antonio Baker. If the SEC gets FSU, the Big Ten will never win another national championship.
Okay.
What do you guys think about that? I think that's funny.
I mean that's. Are you saying that FSU wins every championship?
I'm not saying anything.
I mean,
He's saying something.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm kind of asking that to him. Is I'm not sure why that would matter as much. I think that if FSU joins, that their Big Ten is more likely to win more championships, just because of getting connected down into Florida and Georgia, and what that could mean for them over time. But no, I don't think getting national championships is dependent upon Florida State, because Michigan kind of proved that this year.
Moen, you on anything?
Yeah, that's pure fantasy. I mean, you've got too many quality teams in the Big Ten that one of them will slip through from time to time. The SEC will probably still dominate in football, but it's not going to be as dominating as it has been.
Yeah, there's going to be kind of a combined strength of the Big Ten and Pac and some ACC teams here to challenge and make themselves better.
Summit Hawk says if the ACC loses FSU Miami to the Big and NC State, Virginia Tech to the SEC, and Pitt, Louisville, Clemson, Syracuse to the Big 12, ESPN will not want ACC basketball, because that's really what they'd be buying at that point, is the basketball product, right?
Yeah. No, as I said, that becomes a haven for private schools, and with all the new NCAA regulations come in and things, for them to have their own little place with some of their own rules.
Right. Sky says SEC wants into North Carolina and Virginia rather than getting FSU and Clemson.
I believe
I agree.
Antonio Baker again says if the SEC gets FSU, the Big Ten will never. Oh, sorry, you did that one. I apologize. I didn't check it off. Did the Big 12 really offer Louisville? They were in the AAC before they were added to the ACC. The Big 12 would have been an upgrade from the AAC. Do you guys know the history on that?
There's some history between Louisville and West Virginia. There was some competition there that even included some congressmen in terms of getting one of them into the Big 12. So I don't think there was an actual offer, but there was some talk.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact story. Mitch McConnell, the senator from Kentucky, got Louisville into the ACC. I forget who they were competing with, but he basically threatened them with congressional stuff or whatever, and he got Louisville into the ACC.
Very good. Ryan Willie for $10 super chat. Thank you very much, Ryan. Says the upcoming season could be wild. No Saban or Harbaugh. Bucky could beat Bama. Disappointed that they don't play Michigan. Wisconsin is closer to a title than Minnesota. Let's take those each in line. Upcoming season could be wild. We all agree with that. No Saban or Harbaugh. That's true too. Bucky
Different
could
age.
beat Bama. What's that one?
That's Bucky Badger, the mascot of the Wisconsin Badgers.
Wisconsin, they're playing Bama next year.
He's
Or
playing up Wisconsin.
sure.
Okay. And disappointed they don't play Michigan.
Yes, Wisconsin. He wants Wisconsin to play Michigan. Maybe
Yeah.
he thinks just because they kind of have a bit of a history, but
Don't they have a trophy game?
Was it
I
with
thought
Michigan
they
or
did.
Michigan State?
I swore Wisconsin, Michigan had a trophy game.
Ryan will have to tell us.
You guys will have to look that up. All right. And then Wisconsin is closer to a title than Minnesota. Anybody disagree with that?
I think that was a little shot over towards Tony in chat.
Yeah, I'm not. Whatever. Let's see here. Sky says West Virginia, Cincy, Louisville, and Pitt is a nice pod. We agree with you. We think they are. We also think Clemson would be an absolute steal to the Big 12 if those numbers work out the way they do.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
That's a very tight pod. That's a really good pod.
Tempest says Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Nebraska are the hard hitters. And then he amended that and said Washington and Oregon as well. It's interesting. Nobody's talking about USC.
They'll be back. They will. USC will become a power in the Big Ten at some point. And so will Iowa.
I don't know.
I tried to keep straight face.
Moen, are you going to say anything to that?
Ohio State's a hard hitter. Michigan's, Penn State, Nebraska. Oregon. We're just leaving Oregon.
And
okay.
We just
I'm leaving Oregon out there, but yeah, USC will be back eventually once they get rid of Lincoln Riley.
That was such a bad hire in retrospect.
Wisconsin under Fickle might be surprising in the future as well. We'll see what he's able to put together there.
That would make Tony very happy, I think.
I don't know about Tony. Ryan for sure. Tony
Ryan would love it.
Oh, sorry, Ryan.
Tony might not be very happy.
Minnesota is favored by 5 touchdowns early, according to my sources.
That's his response to Ryan, I'm pretty sure. That's why I put that up there.
Caught it. I was reading those backwards. I apologize. That's pretty funny. All right, let's get some great comments tonight, everybody. We really appreciate everybody for being here tonight. This is great conversation. If you're new to the channel, I might as well remind everybody, make sure you subscribe to the channel and then give us a thumbs up, leave us some comments or suggestions, and then follow us all on Twitter and turn on your notifications. Tony McNerney says, Tony Losh and I totally agree with that NIL will be the great equalizer for the big. Do you guys agree?
Ask Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It's like Ohio State's just decided to jump into the fray, and we're seeing the results. So I would say yes. When the Big Ten wants to spend, it's going to show. And also, I'm noticing a lot of newer folks coming into chat. I would highly suggest going back after this all over and watching from the start. There were some pretty big topics that we were touching upon.
We can review those really quick if you'd like.
Whenever you want to. I've
go ahead.
Seen a lot of
do
new names pop in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to start with the North Carolina? The governors did pass the measure, so that way any school that's part of the North Carolina system has to get approval in order to move or change conference.
Okay.
Then the Florida State situation, they passed something to do something we're not quite sure about, but they're going to be able to do that not quite sure thing in the future whenever is necessary. So basically the actual university can loan money to the athletic department to cover any shortfalls that might happen in the future. Say the ACC stops dispersing money to them or whatever. And then the final thing that we're talking about, I definitely suggest going back and looking at, but we're talking about how it is now forthcoming that the Power 2, Power 4, Power 5 school conferences are threatening to leave the NCAA if they don't get a result, something to amend the situation, and they are not fans of the president of the NCAA's proposal. So we're seeing the threat to leave in order to get something to happen. And if you go back in early, you'll see what we're thinking is about to happen.
Jen, I just sent you the invite. I neglected to put that in your chat earlier tonight. I apologize. If you want to join the show, we'd love to have you. That was my fault and leaving that invitation off. I copied him to Bob Thompson and a couple other people, and I just missed your feed. So I apologize about that. If you want to join us, we'd love to have you with us, Jen. And I would really encourage everybody to go back and watch the first 45 minutes of the show. We go into those topics in detail that Immaculate just reviewed. And there's some really good topics there. And then we encourage you guys to let us know if you have follow-up questions. We can certainly come back to those.
Yep.
Let's get back here to some more comments. Summit Hawk says FSU is gone for sure. Who's the next domino to push the mass exodus?
That's a really good
Owen
question.
keeps moving me around.
I'm sorry. It just keeps doing that when I try and chat.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to run.
You got some key binds or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably you do.
Anyway,
As far as the question goes, will there be another domino? Yeah, I do think it's a game of dominoes. What is the next domino? That's hard to tell. I think right now I'd have to say North Carolina and North Carolina State. The fact that they're doing this right now, I think that there is interest in them pretty heavy from SEC. So I think that that's what's next.
Moen?
Georgia Tech.
Oh,
No,
drink.
drink. No, I think probably Miami would be the next domino to fall.
My opinion is that Clemson and Miami are doing a killer game of who would you rather, because they want to be at the top of that list, and they might both get left behind if Georgia Tech goes, or if North Carolina goes. So I cannot believe they didn't go along with Florida State. That just blows me away.
Okay. I don't think they have the interest. Florida
guess.
State got the nod and the wink, and Clemson did not.
Cleveland Rocks, in all these conference realignments, demographics plays a subtle and unspoken role.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Well, me and Wild Ute are going to shoot the Clemson Big Ten fit tomorrow. So I'm sure that'll come up, the demographics that are in South Carolina and the surrounding areas, and how that applies to the demographics you find in other Big Ten markets. So definitely something the members will want to tune into. I think we're going to upload it on Sunday. We'll record it tomorrow. I'll do the editing over the weekend.
All right, very good. Let's see here. Steve Ojai, Florida says Pitt also had a history Big East in the Big East with West Virginia, Cincinnati, and Louisville. You guys
It's
want
true.
to add anything
He's
to
right.
that? Yeah.
There's a lot of history there between those four. I know folks may not realize that. It goes back a little ways, but the Pitt part, people a lot think that they don't want to come out and be there. That's why we kind of compare them to Utah. In terms of Utah absolutely did not want to join the Big 12 until things started to get shaky, and then Utah wanted to join the Big 12. I kind of think Pitt would be the same way. They don't want to join the Big 12. They don't want to be seen as running to West Virginia and their conference. But when shit starts hitting the fan, they'll call.
Well, the seats get filled up on the bus pretty quick.
You got to call quick, and they have the pack situation to look at and realize that. Like they're all going to be thinking Oregon State, Washington State.
Jen's telling me she can't come on the air. She took her makeup off. Jen, we don't need you to have your makeup on. You don't even have to do your screen. We can just talk to you. I'm just teasing. It's my fault. I apologize. I take responsibility. Everybody, you're being you're not getting Jen because I forgot to give her the invite. So that's totally my fault. Let's see here. Sergeant Pickles says there's a certain lawsuit going on that may result in Northwestern and Vandy leaving their conferences. You guys want to talk to that?
Oh, that was from me. I showed Sergeant Pickles something privately once. There's a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit against a bunch of private schools that they were all trying to price fix all together. And one of them snitched, not really, but they settled. One school out of the class action settled, and that's University of Chicago. So that's ongoing. And Northwestern and Vanderbilt are part of that, and they are both private schools. Every school involved with that is private schools. So that's where some of the line of thinking is, they're, even though they're both in, the Big Ten and the SEC, they also have very strong connected ties to some of these other private schools, and their interests align. So whether or not they go, don't know. It's just one of those maybes.
You want to add anything to that, Moen?
I don't see it ever happening. I know people like to push this that Vanderbilt's going to leave. They'll leave, but no, they're not. They're going to keep taking that $100 million check.
Right. Nobody's going to walk away.
They'll
from
be
that
the
amount
nerds of the
money.
conference that take the $100 million. So will Northwestern.
Yeah,
Agreed.
for me, it would be like if Apple came in and kind of bought up the ACC network and got that new conference a deal on Apple, and if that was just silly money, then I could see something like that entice. I mean, it doesn't have to be equal to the SEC and Big Ten. It's just enough to make it to where then they can go be with their peers. But it'd have to be a lot because those exit amounts would not be small.
Replica says, how long until we start to hear noise from the Virginia schools? Because of the North Carolina ruling and whatnot.
I think soon.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think anybody's going to do anything until the Florida
Yeah.
State situation's resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're seeing North Carolina stuff. So I think people in Virginia are now looking at going, well, we need to say something or do something to make sure our two schools stay together. So that way it's not, let's say North Carolina State, Virginia and Clemson, or Virginia and Florida State, like to make sure that Virginia Tech doesn't get left behind.
Summit Hawk says, big presidents choose Miami. FSU is Fox's choice.
It's
I
possible.
agree. Yeah.
I mean, I know Moen's very much on that, and that may very well be the case. That would be the order. I definitely think FSU is Fox's choice. That's one I personally wouldn't move off of. In terms of who the big presidents want, well, the big presidents, no, I can only guess. Miami of those two would be the big president choice.
Yeah, I'm still 50-50 on Miami. We'll see. Summit Hawk, another gifted membership to the Big 12 Mafia.
Damn, he's on fire.
Thank you, Summit
fire.
Hawk. Very unselfish. Thank you. Let's see here. Movie Time Blues says you guys missed the biggest news. Ryan Field is getting torn down.
As an
we know.
Yeah. As an Ohio State fan, I don't know what to do. Where will I urinate?
That's almost $1 billion project right there for a
Holy cow,
college football stadium renovation.
That is crazy.
Well, not really a renovation.
$1
Completely
billion.
redo.
That's
800 plus million. I mean, that's what it's at. And as these things go, that number will probably inflate as the construction happens. So I'm thinking it's going to hit $1 billion.
Let's see here. Joe Z says instead of the individual schools escrowing $30 million apiece, the conference pay the players and hold $600 million. Charlie Baker's proposal is the conference buster.
Yeah, we just got news today that the Big Ten and SEC are not fans of that proposal, and they have basically shot it down. So they're getting together tomorrow. That's what the really big news is the Power Five and Charlie Baker are all meeting together in Washington, D.C. to try to come up with something, and then I would assume go right down the hall and talk to whatever congressionals they need to talk to.
Mo, you want to add anything to that?
No. Dead
So-
on.
We were able to get Jen to come on, even though we're not seeing her, which everybody's going to really miss out on. How are you doing tonight, Jen?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're staying busy. Lots of news today.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Tell us what's going on in Florida State land.
Well, I think people were a little confused at that meeting today, but basically what that meeting was to say, here's the approval for a loan for whatever amount we need to get the hell out of this clown show. That's
Right.
basically what it was. That was saying we have the approval to take out a loan for whatever the amount is we need to get out. That's really all it was.
It was pretty cut and dry, right? No
Yeah.
surprises in any of those
Nope.
filings.
No, not to me. I mean, I think some people were wondering why they did it, but again, they have to, as an entity of Florida, they have to do that. They have to do things publicly. They have to announce it. They have to do it on video. They have to do all these It's the sunshine laws, and so yeah, I think they were just saying, hey, we're basically out of here. That's what they were saying, pretty much.
Yep. Nothing you can do to us is going to stop us. We will fund ourselves.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. It was, okay, well, we're going to get out of here. It doesn't matter how we get out of here, but we're going to have the money. We're going to have a line of credit. And that's basically what it was.
So the leaving itself at this point is just another task, right? We're not really talking about a decision anymore. It's just a matter of when.
Yes. I don't think there's any decision anymore. I think, I actually think that decision was made probably about 2 years ago. I don't think there was anything the ACC could do to keep that together. So, but that's just me.
Now I've been reaching out to try to find people from Miami and Clemson. I was finally able to find a Miami guy. He's going to join me next week. I'll invite you to that show. But I asked you guys if you'd heard anything else about any other schools, and you said absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think the silence is deafening to me.
Right.
I think that if there was any whispers going on in those programs, I think that there would be content about it, to be honest. I know Clemson's working on things. I do know that. I think Miami is the one that's not. I don't really think they are. I don't think they have a spot just yet. I know I don't think they have a spot yet. And I think that they're just kind of seeing where this goes with Florida State. And that's also a reason that I think that this grant of rights thing is not going to be as opened up as people think it's going to be, because I don't see the ACC wanting to open that up to allow other teams to follow the same playbook. I just don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they want the grant of rights challenge. I don't.
Yeah, there might be just a single settlement for Florida State.
Yeah.
And if they really want to try to hold on to the ACC as much as possible, which I think considering 2027 is coming, I think that's kind of silly. But if they want to, yeah, they could maybe even have a non-disclosure that you can't even share. Now, that's hard. They actually couldn't make Florida State do that, though, could they?
They can't. Yeah, they cannot.
Florida
State's got to be, So they're going to have to. That's why I'm thinking they're not going to, because with the laws the way they are, with Florida State having to do what they have to do publicly, being a public school in the state of Florida, I don't, like I said, if they open those grant of rights up, if it gets challenged, if it just falls a certain way, that could be just this gaping hole of teams being able to leave. And I don't think the ACC wants to do that. So, I mean, but that, again, that's just me. But I think that the writing's on the wall that that's the way that this is going to go. I think you can see that. You can put 2 and 2 together. It's weird to me that I really thought Clemson would have said something by now, or at least had some sort of statement or some sort of, hey, publicly, this is what we're doing.
Yep. And
to me, the fact that they haven't, it almost screams to me the Big Ten is trying to see what Notre Dame's going to do, and they're waiting on North Carolina. And with the decision today with North Carolina, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case either.
So the people you're talking to, are we still talking about some sort of a conclusion, at least on the path, by August of this year for Florida State?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead.
I could see Florida State playing in the Big Ten by 2025, 2026 at the latest. 2025, the earliest. Obviously, anybody saying 2024, that's a pipe dream. That's not obviously happening. But I could see it being 2025, 2026. And I think, I do think I could see some people saying that they could get out for less than 100. I think it's going to be closer to 200 million right now. That's where I would lean right now, because I think if the ACC gives Florida State a number, I think they're going to accept it, and I think we just move on.
Really quick before we get to more questions, Emilian Islanol, the Isle of Knoll is what I made fun of that before. Amelia Islanol, thank you so much for being here. A big fan of yours, by the way, John. I believe watch you over on Renegade Report and has been here for
Yeah.
a while with us. We
Yeah,
really
she actually
appreciate that.
gifted Jen that went to Jen.
She did. She did.
Hey,
And it
how
came to
about
me.
that? Timing.
I was like, yay. I
Timing.
was trying to figure out how to get y'all's membership and Greg's membership. I couldn't. I don't know. I'm really
Right.
technology challenged.
I finally
It's
paid for
sad.
Greg's and I can't remember how I did it. I can't. So it's I'm not very
You're
good
gonna
at
have to
that.
tune me into that because I've tried to do it too, and I'm like, I can't figure this out.
Okay,
It's really
we can talk
sad.
about that. Thank you very much, Amelia, for gifting that membership, and we're glad it went to Jen. All right, Immaculate or Moen, we lost Jen. That sucks. Okay. Hopefully she'll be back. Let's get to another comment here from
Okay.
Steve. Says Virginia legislature is doing their due diligence. They will not get left behind.
Definitely.
With what happened in North Carolina today.
I agree with Steve. It just happened, so they're not going to have an immediate response,
Right.
but there's going to be something coming. You're going to see it. If maybe it's from that AG who has been talking a lot, maybe it'll be from the governor. Somebody is going to come out and say something, and that's going to let you know that there's a lot of conversations going on in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Jen,
mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I agree with that. I think you're gonna see. I think the AG and the governor are very involved in this, and I think that's something Florida State has on their side. I don't know that Clemson has the same going for them right now, and it doesn't look like North Carolina does either. So I think this ends in a settlement, and I think it's going to be a little sooner than people think it's going to be. I do think it's going to be. I think we'll at least have a number by August, and I think they'll be headed towards playing in the Big Ten in 2025, 2026.
I don't know if you caught our show earlier, but we talked about this new House versus NCAA news that came out today, and then this idea that there's a potential of this breakaway, which is sort of trigger language anymore, but this idea there's a separation of the schools that can afford it versus the schools that can't. Do you have any questions about that? Because we've been spending many hours on the back end on that, and we thought you might have some questions for us.
Well, I mean, I think it would be, I mean, God, I mean, I think it would be a great idea. I mean, if you think about it, I've kind of had an idea on where recruiting is going to go. I think it's going to go straight to the portal. I think the bigger schools are going to start paying for kids who have had production instead of paying for high school kids who haven't done anything yet. That another big school can come in and creep and take from you in a year with no consequences, right? So why are you going to spend all this time recruiting them, paying for them? They don't ever see the field, and another team comes and takes them in a year. So to me, I kind of like the idea of splitting up between the FCS and doing all those. I think that's the way this is going to go. I just don't see how you can get away from it at this point.
Moen or Immaculate, you want to?
I know Moen's probably got a lot to say, and I'll just say real quick. I think that we are going to see large scale, if what I think is true with the autonomous conferences getting their own governance. I think you're going to see some new rules when it comes to transferring, and that's going to come with some types of contracting. Moen goes into that a lot more in depth than I'm really comfortable with, but the problem that you're stating is a very real problem, and they're going to have to address it in one way or another. I tend to think that what you're saying is true, that schools down below would just be like, we don't want to be your farm squads, but at some point in time, they also need to be the farm squads. Like, it's going to happen, so they need to benefit from it. And I think that's where you're going to see contracts come in. If kids are portaling up, something may go down to the school who's losing them, because I don't see this slowing down. It's only going to speed up. So they're going to have to find some solutions, and I think that when they get that full governance, they'll figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I would see it going into having kind of like a commissioner almost situation. But I could also see it being, okay, a kid signs an an NIL deal, right? If a school comes in and poaches them, they've got to buy it out, right? I mean, I just don't. I could see those types of situations happening in college. If you're going to come in and take a player that a school has put all that money into, paid for them to come, they haven't gotten any production on the field. I could see it becoming some sort of contract buyout situation. I don't know how else you get away from it when coaches are spending all that time, resources for high schoolers. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Moen?
Conference employees. You make them conference employees, and that resolves everything. Then you can only transfer within your conference. You're only allowed one transfer in your career. And yeah, I think that resolves everything if you just make them conference employees, pay them $30,000 each a year for revenue generating athletes, and be done with it.
Immaculate?
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to go so far as to limit the amount of transferring, considering the push has gone in the opposite direction. But I do think that there'll probably have to be some kind of dealing between conferences if like a kid wants to move conference. I don't ever think we get to where we have one commissioner of all college football. It's just it's not one organization. But in the A4, A5, you basically have your commissioners come together and act as one via voting. So like say if they were trying to get a kid up from a G5 conference and they have a contract with them, say like the Big Ten would have to buy that contract with whatever clauses, just kind of like how you see between teams now in the NFL. But it would probably just be dealing between conferences, and then internally each conference would have its own rules as to transfers between schools within the conference.
Bob Thompson thought that a commissioner of all of college football could happen.
I mean, yeah, it might. I think that that's what the A4 is, though. Like, I don't see any of those commissioners want to hand over their powers to another person, because then all their jobs are kind of, get rid of them.
Couple questions here for you, Jen. This one's from Summit Hawk. He says, "Who will be your favorite new rival in the Big Ten?"
I would have to go with, I guess, Michigan, because Florida State does have that kind of, they played them a couple years in the 90s. It was fun. I don't know. I want to go to a game at Ohio State. I don't know what. I'd have to look at rival. I mean, yeah, I'd have to say Michigan. I guess Michigan to start off with. Yeah, because we have a history with Michigan.
No Penn State?
I was thinking Penn State.
Yeah, me too.
I just,
because you were both independent, not 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
There's some history there.
Yeah.
There's some. I mean, Joe Pa and Bobby were friendly. I guess they were friends. Right. I don't know. I guess for me, Penn State's always played that real slow football. It just doesn't seem really fair to me to put Florida State speed up against Penn State a lot of times. But I mean, that's
pretty
just
slow
me.
Too. Fair warning,
Yeah.
Michigan's pretty slow too.
I know, but I don't know. I don't know. I would guess Michigan for me. I mean, maybe Penn State. I kind of wish Penn State would get a new coach because I think James Franklin's kind of hit that ceiling there.
Right.
To me. But
I think they would have had it if that quarterback worked out for him. He was a 5-star. He was supposed to be better than what he was. It's just maybe they need a new quarterback coach. It felt like they were that one piece away this year, and that was it.
I feel like James Franklin follows the stars instead of evaluations. I think that's been his problem from day one. I think he looks at stars and says, "Oh my God, this kid's a 4-star. He must be great," instead of seeing if he's an actual fit for his team. And I think he did that at Vanderbilt. I think he took any player that would actually go to Vanderbilt, and which he did a great job at Vanderbilt. Like, don't get me wrong, that's where coaches go to die. But I don't know. It just seems like at Penn State he could have done so much more. That's just
possible.
Right? Yeah.
Moen,
he might be capped out, but yeah, go ahead, Moen.
Moen, what's your idea?
Florida State's rival should be Penn State because Penn State has no rival. Penn State needs a rival. Give them Florida State. They have history
Right.
between Joe Pa and Bobby Bowden. It makes the most sense. Ohio State's rivalry is Michigan. Michigan doesn't need any more rivalries.
Right.
No, they don't. They don't. I mean, Wisconsin, Florida State played them in a bowl game with Brett Bielema at head coach, and Bielema wouldn't even shake Bobby's hand. It was kind of funny.
That's just dumb.
Well, because so Bielema was talking a bunch of stuff before the game, and he was like, "We're gonna take them to the glue factory. They think they're these stud horses, and we're gonna take them to the glue factory." And Florida State took it personally, and they ran up the score. And it was an ugly game. It was for sure, but he wouldn't even shake Bobby Bowden's hand, and he ended up retiring the next year. And if anybody knows Bobby Bowden, he is anything but I don't know.
I like Florida State Oregon as a future rivalry. I know
Boy,
it's a long ways away. I know, but those two teams. I mean, Oregon was Fox's pick. Florida State is Fox's pick.
Yeah.
If you guys had a rivalry game, Fox would be like, "That's one of the three we want." I just think that they would. I think that they would showcase that. I mean, the uniforms. Would you have a better combo of two teams going against each other with uniforms?
Well, Florida State fans don't like switching up these uniforms. That's not our thing at all.
Saying you have to switch them. I think Florida State has top 5 uniform selection already as it is in the country.
Yeah, we just would prefer it to go back to the old school one, to be honest.
Nathan Campbell says, Bomber, can you see the conference's men's split by regional TV market and national TV market? In other words, can we see the conferences sort of cease to exist the way they are, and they actually break down by TV markets and regions? So basically a reconstitution to cover all the schools that would be in it. We would say 68 schools. You break them into regions, and everybody's on the same. What do you guys think about that idea?
I don't see the other. I don't see the two power conferences giving up their power that they have. Right. I just don't. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. We need to see some more happen in terms of what's going on with the NCAA here in the future, and then kind of judge a little bit better where it's going to go. I do think they're going to have to do something with the other sports to kind of figure out how to do some more regionality.
Moen?
Yeah, I don't ever see that happening again. You're moving towards a more national college football brand.
All right. Joe Z says, could they settle for $250 million just to publicize through sunshine laws? Then ACC waives 50% of it behind closed doors. Jen?
I don't see the ACC doing anything. I think that if the ACC could publicly tell Florida State they owe $250 million, then Florida State's going to have to pay them publicly $250 million.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if the waiver could get hidden away, just like the initial price couldn't.
Yeah, it's not going to be able to, and I don't look. When Florida State leaves the ACC, that's a huge revenue loss for the ACC.
Yeah.
The ACC needs to try and get every dime they can out of them, and they want to do it publicly. They're certainly not going to go in a backroom deal and do anything, to waive it off or anything that could leak out to any other school. Because, losing Florida State is huge for the ACC, but when they lose Florida State, they have to do any and everything they can to at least keep a Clemson. If they can't keep Clemson, then this is going to hell in a handbasket quickly. I even think they could survive losing North Carolina. I do. I think they could survive losing North Carolina, NC State.
But what survive, Jen? Not at the same dollar amount they're currently getting paid.
You
lose a third of it just in FSU leaving. How do you keep the same value? I think that the ACC could stick. With the ruling today,
I think North Carolina and NC State are going to stay put for a minute. I don't think they're going to be a part of this first round go
Okay.
at this point. I just
Okay.
don't. So I think that's going to keep the ACC intact for right now. But I think they also need to start being a little bit more defensive in their moves. They cannot sit here and think that, oh, we're just going to keep Florida State here or sue them and make them a non-managing partner, because I don't even think that's going to fly. They've got to, with this ruling today, I think it's good news for Clemson, and I think it's also a little bit good news for Georgia Tech. I know everybody hates to hear that, but I just do. I think that if the ACC loses Florida State and they only lose like a Georgia Tech, that's how I think they could stay. And
Congratulations.
I'm just saying.
You just made Moen drink.
You drink
I'm
every time we
sorry.
say Georgia Tech.
It's
Mullen
no, don't apologize. That's
all right. He's more
Show
fun when he drinks. So
I love that. I love that.
Can I?
Go ahead. You go
Yep.
ahead. Yeah, real quick.
You know, people are gonna think with the one. I don't want to get anyone too riled up over it, but she's not wrong in terms of Clemson. I would have thought that they would have been out by now. So I have to
Yeah.
think there's not a whole lot of look at them right now.
Yeah.
And I think that carries over a bit to Miami too.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of talk about that either. That does not mean GT has it, because GT's not doing
No.
anything either.
No,
It's-
they're not.
But maybe they aren't interested yet. I don't know. Kind of a cute little thing going on is the Big Ten has an exhibit up in the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia right now, which is one hell of an excuse for someone from a Big Ten school or the conferences to come down there and visit. And
Which is only what, like 45 minutes from Tallahassee anyway? What, an hour?
Tallahassee,
Hour and
from
yep.
Georgia Tech, from Clemson.
Yep.
There's a lot that could just get into Atlanta and, say meet at a restaurant or right around the corner. So I think that there's a lot of talking probably getting started down there between different schools. And just one last thing on that, ESPN and the 2027 thing changes everything. In terms of, could people stay behind and make it work? I don't think that's an option for a lot of these schools. I think they need to figure something out because time is ticking on them, and that became known to the public, and that's what the ACC is pissed about.
Yep.
It's too late now, though.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pickles, $1.99 super chat says FSU is what the Duckies think they are.
See, now it's already a rivalry in the making. That's what gets started.
I love it.
Well,
That's
I mean,
great.
it's a little true because, the O stands for no championships. We get that. We get
oh,
it.
baby.
I'm there for it.
Shots fired.
Already getting started.
Going. I love it. Arning Gad says none of these recent ads to the big have gotten anywhere near full payout. They would all be pissed if FSU got a full payout, USC and UCLA full payout, but they brought the LA market. So basically what we're saying is Florida State gets fully funded. Washington and Oregon are going to flip out.
Well, I mean, that is what it is.
The difference would be Florida State would be cracking something, getting something started, whereas Washington and Oregon were basically kind of needing to be saved. Sorry to Sergeant out there, but it's true. I think that they were kind of on the future schedule of Big Ten expansion, and they kind of had to be saved and brought in earlier, which is why they got a lower payout. But I think I don't think that was the last of the money. I think that they had money that they wanted to set aside for whatever they're going to do in the ACC. So I do think, despite how they feel about it, Florida State would get funded if they were actually willing to pony up all this money to get out on their own.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think when you look at the ratings, the revenue, the markets, the just the program itself, well, I mean, I hate to say it, eyeballs, championships, Heisman's. I mean, yeah, Florida State's going to get funded. Recruiting. Like, let's just look at recruiting. I think this is the first time Oregon's ever beaten Florida State in recruiting, and Florida State's sucked the last 10 years. So I don't know where else I need to go in this conversation, but the recruiting alone out of Florida that brings. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be, the other schools would be mad, but I do agree with you. Everything I've heard is that Florida State's going to get a share. Yeah, they're not going to, it's not an SMU situation. It's not an Oregon situation. And it's not a Washington situation.
Moen, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, those schools will be pissed until the next media deal.
Yeah.
We're having Florida State and the state of Florida makes them an extra $10 million a year.
Yeah. And that,
so
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Get some more comments. Wild Ute, Joey Z says Wild Ute has shown FSU is more valuable than Oregon and Washington. I want to be very clear. When we did those shorts, we also did shorts on Oregon and Washington as well. Their valuation was quite high, as including as the same as Florida State. They all were very, very similar, but they are coming from different places. Florida State is Florida. Washington, Oregon, not exactly known for huge recruiting grounds. So that by itself is a big tilter. What are some other reasons why Florida State would be more valuable, guys?
One, they would basically be the Big Ten team for the entire South. It opens up that whole area, whereas Oregon and Washington, Oregon is basically Northern California. It's not just Oregon, but in terms of visibility, with how much football is just beloved in Florida, just the percentage of viewing of college football down there is so much higher. And that's not to say that Oregon and Washington aren't also valuable. I think Oregon was like right behind them, so it's not that big of a difference. But in terms of what Florida State is making available by what they're doing all on their own, I don't think they're doing it unless they know they have a place and that it's a full or near full payout. So that's kind of why I say I think everyone realizes their situations are different.
Yeah, and I also think people don't realize where Tallahassee really is. So you're talking Tallahassee, yes, it's in Florida. We're not talking Orlando. We're not talking Gainesville. We're not talking Miami. Tallahassee is the Florida-Georgia line. Like you are in Georgia, Alabama, and you're in Alabama in 45 minutes to an hour. You're in Georgia in 30 minutes. You can get to Tennessee in about 5 hours. This brings the South to the Big Ten. This brings SEC country to the Big Ten. It opens that up. And that is a huge get for Fox. It's a huge get for the Big Ten. I just don't think you get that with any other school, maybe except for North Carolina. But North Carolina kids don't stay at North Carolina. Like if you can open up the state of Florida, they usually stay in Florida, or the Big Ten can come in there and grab them, which we know from Ohio State. They love that. They love our wide receivers. So it's a difference maker. It's just different. And I don't think people realize where Florida State is, or that it opens that much of the South, the SEC country, up to the Big Ten.
And Florida State's, you guys have a stadium renovation going on too, quite a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, part of that will be some more kind of private VIP box type viewing, which is something that in Ohio State coming to town could use. Michigan, if they have some recruits down there they want to impress, well, they're going to have them come watch them play at Florida State if they're coming to there.
Yeah.
And with all the new amenities that you're going to have at that stadium, I don't really consider it to be just a coincidence. Yeah.
I mean, they did do the Champions Club a couple years ago, which is wonderful, but they are making some major upgrades now too. Florida State actually has their own stadium, unlike another team in the ACC. I'm not going to go there. You know how much I love to do that. They have to rent theirs. And it's 45 minutes away. But anyway, and they have their own indoor practice facility that's not just 35 yards, guys, not just 35 yards. But yeah, I mean, Florida State's got facilities, they've got history, they've got the academics are there. To me, it's
a win.
Yeah. it's just a win. I think it's a win for both sides too, because Florida State's not going to be. I mean, again, and I'm hearing it too that people are saying, well, the SEC could come in and play defense. I don't think Florida State wants to go into another situation where they're treated like the redheaded stepchild, which is exactly what they would be treated like in the SEC. I just don't see it. I don't care what kind of defense the SEC wants to play. I think all along it's been the Big Ten. I've only heard the Big Ten for a couple of years now. I think I think if they start to play defense, I think you're going to see that with a Clemson.
Yeah, it's what we used to talk about a lot. I couldn't believe that the SEC would ever allow the Big Ten to come in and plant their flag in Tallahassee, and that the SEC would play defensive. But I kind of changed my tune with what happened with the CFP. Like, it's just so many people with Florida State are just mad as hell at the SEC, at the CFP, at the whole system. It just seems like trying to sell a lot of those folks right now to go to the SEC might be more difficult than it was before.
Oh yeah, it's probably like trying to sell ketchup popsicles, to people in white gloves, right? I mean, they just don't want to have anything to do with it. They're over it. They don't. But I really honestly think that Florida State has looked at the SEC for a while now, and for years that was their goal, I think. And then they started to realize we're going to be treated exactly the same way in the SEC as we feel we were treated in the ACC. I think I don't see them having. I think Clemson feels the same way too. By the way, I do. I think Clemson would love to get into the Big Ten over the SEC. They haven't. Like I said, their silence has just been deafening, and I think maybe they just don't have that wink, wink, nod, nod that maybe we thought would be coming. Yeah,
I'm absolutely positive they don't. Otherwise,
yeah, I don't think they do either.
I think Clemson becomes South Carolina in the SEC. If I'm being real, just brutally honest about it, especially with the fact that Dabo is once again batting zero for whatever when it comes to getting the transfers that he wanted to get.
Oh, you didn't like his portal success? That wasn't a good job.
Not just was it that he's saying he's not into it, but that he's actually trying and completely failing. Like that's and he goes in the SEC, he's just gonna. Oh, that's gonna be tough.
I think he offered one kid.
It was like 6 or 7, and they all went to other schools. Oh yeah, it was bad.
Oh.
All right. We're going to start wrapping up. We've been going almost 2 hours. Jen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you,
it's
guys.
Always great to have you. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Y'all have a great night.
Night, Jen.
Bye.
Bye. We're good. I mean, this has just been loaded. Questions from the beginning. Got the news that we came out about House versus NCAA and the other reports. Recommend everybody goes back and looks at watch the first 45 minutes of the show. Ton of news items we covered, and then we've answered a bunch of questions tonight. Let's wrap this up. Immaculate, what's your last thing you want to leave with everybody? By the way, I want to encourage everybody, make sure you subscribe and follow us all on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications. Go ahead, Immaculate.
Yeah, I would say tomorrow is this big meeting we're watching that's going to be happening between the commissioners and the president of the NCAA, and that's happening in Washington, which means if there's some agreement made, they can go right down and start talking to congressional leaders. So we're going to be watching that. I know I'm going to be watching that and talking about that, chatting about that on X Twitter. You can see me right here at Immaculate View, and we will hopefully be bringing that up on Friday, which is starting to sound like it's going to be one hell of a show. So I'm looking forward to that.
Owen.
Catch me on Sundays on Mowing After Dark, filming the Clemson fit to the Big Ten tomorrow with Will Doot, and we'll get that out for you. And I'm picking Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble.
There we go, Cody Rhodes. His father was my favorite. Dusty was the bomb. I love Dusty Rhodes. Anyways, I appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Busy Wednesday, lots of news. Encourage everybody to go back and watch the beginning. Oh, we have a new member. Thank you very much for catching that. RFR Mac, a Utah fan. You've been around here for a while, RFR. Thank you. It's great to have new members. We encourage everybody to become members. Go to the main Big 12 Mafia page, hit the join button right in the middle of the page, and join us like RFR Mac has. RFR Mac, I would encourage you to watch for the Clemson video that's going to be coming out this weekend for members only. And everybody who's joined or hasn't joined and wants to join and see that video and future videos, we encourage you to do that. Otherwise, thanks RFR for joining. I'm going to say good night. Everybody stay out of trouble. Quit drinking, mowing. You need to get to bed. And everybody else, have a great night. And we will see you Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And follow us all on Twitter. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Peace.